Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah you're well. Today, alhamdulillah, I'm going to speak about the school leaver route to becoming a qualified accountant. But before I go into the pros and cons straight away, I wanted to give a bit of an overview first. A school leaver program is a great way to study to become a qualified accountant whilst also working for a full-time job. So similar to a graduate role after you finish your degree at university. Now there are two key type of qualification routes with regards to school leaver programs. The first is the AAT/ACA Fast Track. So when you begin the program, you study for a qualification called the AAT, which stands for the Association of Accounting Technicians. And then once you've completed this qualification, which can take up to 2 years depending on what level you enter, you then study for the ACA qualification and you become a fully qualified accountant, and the whole program takes about 5 years to complete. Now the AAT is a standalone qualification. So once you've completed this, although you don't become a qualified accountant, it is a great stepping stone to then study for the ACA in this instance, or you could go on and study for the ACCA, CIMA or ICAS qualification, all of which lead you to become a qualified accountant. The other qualification route is you skip studying for the AAT and you study for the ACA directly. Now this just comes down to a company's preference. So some will get their students to study for the AAT and then the ACA, whereas others will go into ACA. There is no major disadvantage studying for either route. So these are the two qualification routes I'm aware of. There may be other programs out there which make you study for the AAT first and then you go on to complete either maybe the ACCA or ICAS. I'm not aware of those, but if you are, please feel free to comment below. It's good to spread knowledge, and it would be good for me to update my market knowledge as well at the same time. So to get into one of these programs, you typically have to have 120 UCAS points, which is the same as 3 Bs at A level, and also have a pass grade in GCSE Maths and English. Now, although the scheme does say school leaver, you do not have to be a current school leaver. So if you left school years ago, so long as you don't have a degree, you should still be eligible to apply. So for example, if you left school, did 2 years at university, felt it wasn't right for you, left, and then you took an office job or worked other jobs and then decided, you know what, I want to try and become an accountant. So long as you meet the A level and GCSE requirements, you should be able to apply for that scheme as well. The only people that can't really apply are those with degrees, because they should be applying for graduate programs instead. So if you have a degree, you won't be eligible to apply for school leaver programs. You could also do an apprenticeship. Now, school leaver programs are typically apprenticeships. However, in my opinion, they are very different. The reason why is because school leaver programs pay much higher than the minimum apprentice pay requirements that are set by government. So as a school leaver, you can expect to earn between 18 and 23,000 pounds in your first year, whereas as an apprenticeship, your pay will normally be between 12 to 15,000 pounds a year. A school leaver program is very structured. So it takes about 5 years to complete, whereas apprenticeships are normally for 1 or 2 years. So what you'll find is with an apprenticeship, you may study for the AAT qualification for 1 or 2 years, but then actually after that, there is no guarantee that you will then be taken on by the company you're working for and you will then go on to study to become a qualified accountant. However, I wouldn't look down at apprenticeships because you can still become a qualified accountant. It might be that you do the AAT with one company, complete the apprenticeship, and then inshallah find another job. The employer could be supporting you through your qualified accountancy program. And inshallah khair, within those 5 years, you may still become a qualified accountant. So I wouldn't look down on an apprenticeship as such. It's just that as a school leaver, you're obviously paid more, which is what we all work for, right? And secondly, there is a bit of a guarantee that you will be trained through the ACA and become a qualified accountant at the same time. So now you know a bit about these programs. Where can you actually find these roles? So firstly, I'd highly recommend going to a website called notgoingtouni.co.uk. It's a great website. I used it when I was applying, and it lists not only finance related programs, but also non-finance related programs. So if you're a bit unsure, then definitely go onto the website and see what schemes are out there. Secondly, I'd visit the careers site of top 10 accountancy firms. Now, when I say top 10, that means the 10 largest accountancy firms by fee income. So the money that they bring in for the business. Most of these firms will have school leaver training programs in place. So to find out who the top 10 accountancy firms are, you can just simply Google it. I mean, I can tell you now that the big four are known as PwC, EY, Deloitte, and KPMG. So these are the big four in terms of their fee income. And then there are smaller accountancy firms, which are still huge, but smaller compared to the big four. And they're known as, Grant Thornton, BDO, those are 2 examples. So I've given you 6 examples. Inshallah, Google top 10 accountancy firms and you will find them there. And then visit each site. And within each site, you'll find a link to their graduate or early careers website. And there you'll find more information about school leaver roles and apprenticeships that they offer. Thirdly, I'd use gov.uk apprenticeships. So you can simply Google that and it should come up with a link, which is a government tool to search for apprenticeships near you. Typically, you'll find smaller companies advertising their roles here. But like I said, don't look down on apprenticeships. There's still a good way to entering accountancy, seeing whether it's right for you, and then going on to progress to become a qualified accountant. Finally, I just Google it. So search accountancy programs, search school leaver programs. I tried the first 3 options first, but inshallah, to ensure that you've got as much information as possible, you can apply it to as many schemes as you want, try Google at the end. You may have missed off a company in the first 3. So in terms of pros and cons, the biggest positive of doing a school leaver program or an apprenticeship is you have no debt. You don't see any deductions from your payslip after tax and national insurance. And alhamdulillah, having worked with graduates, I can say it's a blessing. Secondly, it is probably the quickest route to becoming a qualified accountant. So you'll remember in an earlier video, I said that if you're a graduate, it takes about 6 years to qualify. 3 years to complete your degree at university, and then 3 years to complete a graduate training program. But whereas with a school leaver program, it takes about 5 years to complete. So alhamdulillah, you not only save a year, but when comparing qualified accountants, school leavers tend to have more experience than graduates. Because graduates will have 3 years of experience, whereas school leavers will have 5 years. The final benefit I want to talk about is that as a school leaver, no one expects you to know much. You're not expected to know anything about accountancy. And I had an experience in my first year actually, where I was at a client site and the finance manager said, "Oh, Fazan, the fact that you're in a school leaver program is great because you can ask any dumb question and it's okay." I was taken aback by that at first, but alhamdulillah, she was right. As a graduate, you may be expected to have some pre-existing knowledge, especially if you completed an internship or if you've studied accountancy and finance at university. Whereas actually, I found in my experience that most companies won't set their expectations as high for school leavers, because obviously they appreciate they've just come fresh out of school in most instances anyway. So in terms of negatives now, I think one of the potential negatives of a school leaver program or an apprenticeship is personal development. So working a full-time job and then studying for a qualification in the evenings, the weekends is not easy. And you may find that your opportunities for personal development outside of work are limited. Now, when you compare that to university, for example, you have 3 years at university. In those years, you could do activities, join unions, societies, all opportunities which are good for your personal development. So comparing the 2 routes, university may be a better option for personal development. However, having said that, I was a school leaver. I came through the school leaver route. Alhamdulillah, I've been in the industry for 10 years. I don't think for 1 second that my personal development has been impacted by choosing a school leaver or an apprenticeship over the university route. Secondly, I don't have a degree. So if I wanted to switch careers at a later stage, maybe become a teacher or a solicitor, I may find it's very difficult to do that because I don't have a degree. However, what I would say is becoming a qualified accountant is highly respected. So what you may find is that a lot of employers may overlook the degree requirements because you're a qualified accountant. Also, a lot of universities actually value chartered accountancy and management accountancy qualifications. So what you may find is that you could spend a year studying for a master's, or I know that the ACCA have a partnership with Oxford Brookes. So if you study with the ACCA and become a qualified accountant, you can submit, I think, a dissertation, and you also get a degree from Oxford Brookes. So if you're worried about the fact that you might not have a degree, I would say don't be, because there are plenty of opportunities, like I said, to get a degree or even a master's qualification. So those were the 2 main negatives, but there are other factors to consider. For example, a lot of companies may have an exam policy in place. So that means that if you fail an exam a number of times, you may lose your job. right? Now that sounds scary at first, but the reason I don't want you to dwell on that is because it's the same with graduates or even self-studying. If you get a training contract with an employer, most likely there will be a clause in there that states that if you fail an exam a number of times, you will lose your employment. So I don't want to put that as a specific negative against school leaver programs or apprenticeships, because it's applicable to all routes to becoming a qualified accountant. But I'm a big advocate for school leaver programs, and what I say to people is definitely go for a school leaver program or an apprenticeship first. Because think about it, right? If you fail exams a number of times and you find out you're not enjoying it, you're not enjoying the content, or accountancy wasn't how you imagined, then inshallah khair. You may be 19 or 20 years old, you've left accountancy, now you're free to pursue a career in whichever other field that you like. Whereas imagine if you were a graduate, you studied accountancy and finance for 3 years, and then you joined an accountancy training program, and then you found out that actually accountancy isn't for me. Your degree in accountancy and finance isn't as useful then. I think that the positives of doing a school leaver program or an apprenticeship massively outweigh the negatives. Even though I mentioned some negatives, that was only so that you can make an informed decision. Alhamdulillah, I haven't seen any impact or had any feedback on my personal development because I took a school leaver program. Secondly, the thing I'd say about switching careers is that when I qualified as an accountant, I was thinking about switching careers and potentially becoming a barrister. And I reached out to the BPTC, which is the registered body for barristers, and I said, look, I haven't got a degree, but what I have got is 5 years of accountancy experience. Can I go and study the graduate diploma in law, which is a law conversion course, and then study for the bar qualification so that I can become a barrister? And they said, Fazan, it's absolutely fine. All we need are professional referees. The fact that you don't have a degree doesn't matter because you're a qualified accountant. Don't look at school leaver programs or apprenticeships and think, oh, you know what, I don't have a degree, so my options will be limited in the future. You know, I'm a perfect example of that's not the case. So inshallah, I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. Make sure you share this videos with others, spread the message, inshallah, help our youngsters make an informed decision. Next time, I'll be talking about the self-studying route to becoming a qualified accountant.